What entirely kind of got you started with like the video game industry, and what brought you eventually to start this whole Ember concept?
So how did I go from person to douchebag? Okay, so um, first of all, I've always loved games. I played games all my life. I begged my parents for, an old Apple II, a clone, not even a real one, so I could play it. And I played Lode Runner on that as my first
Oh
game.
my
And
gosh.
then I started writing them immediately. I taught myself Basic, and I started writing text adventure games, two-word parsers, because I was playing them at the time. I was playing tons of Infocom adventure games. And I played those and I kind of got hooked and I started learning assembly language and graphics programming from then. And it had always been kind of a side hobby. But sometime during college, I got contacted by a friend of mine on AOL of all places. That's where the cool people used to hang out. And we were on the PC graphics forum, and he was like, "Oh, I need someone to help me make a game demo. I'm doing game lessons on how to make games." I'm like, "Well, I know a little bit about how to make games. Let me help you out." So I started doing art. Um, yes, I do art as well.
Man
I
of
do a
many
little,
talents.
and then what?
I said you're a man of many talents, that's for sure.
Oh, and navels, yes. And
Oh
that's a little in
gosh.
joke for my Twitter fans. I'm sure it won't make sense to anybody else. But um, we started working on a game together, and then I went to law school. In the first year of law school, he calls me up and says, "Hey, man, you know that those game lessons we're working on? I'm turning into a game, and Interplay wants to publish it." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Interplay." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "I really need you to help me finish the game." I was like, "Dude, I'm in law school. How am I going to do this? I've got this is like intense pressure for
Right.
final exams." And but he wouldn't give up. He flew out to California. He was from the Bay Area, and he came out. Sorry, he flew out to Boston, where I was from the Bay Area, and he said, "Look, we've got this deal. This is how much they're going to pay us." And it was literally less than minimum wage when you worked it out.
Oh
But
jeez.
game budgets back then were different, man. The whole game budget for a PC game back then was, I think, $150,000, and we had to do it with a team of six people, and we created a game called Star Reach together for Interplay, which was kind of like pre-RTS era, and it had some RTS elements, and it came in this weird shaped crown box that was supposed to look like a spaceship, but just looked like a Burger King crown.
That's
And
awesome.
because wild boxes were all the rage to try to catch your attention on the shelves back then. And we were one of the first CD-ROM games from Interplay. Even though we fit on a floppy, they wanted to put on a CD-ROM because Myst came out on CD-ROM and sold, and so
Oh.
everybody wanted to be on CD-ROM. So we did this game, and what's interesting is how many people I met later in life who worked on that game in one aspect or another. Rob Pardo, former vice president of Blizzard Design, uh, was in QA on that game and Interplay. And another artist who was on it, um, Dwayne Stinnett, became a former art director at Blizzard Entertainment. This is before any of us were at Blizzard.
Wow.
And so we worked on this little game together, and it was actually part of the inspiration for Warcraft, art and RTS. Herzog Zwei on the Sega and Star Reach are cited by Alan Adham, one of Blizzard's key founders, as sort of like giving him inspiration to enter the RTS genre and then sort of pull it all together. So they and Westwood really created it, but we had some of the seeds. It wasn't a very good game, but we were a seed. And so that's how I got started in the industry. And before I could go on and on about every step that I took, what would you like to know about my journey?
Well, I'm obviously a big Blizzard fan, big Warcraft fan. Pretty excited for Legion to come out. Still waiting on those private servers to actually happen. Whenever that actually does happen. But I think I want to know more about your kind of time at Blizzard and kind of how that molded you for the rest of your gaming career. Because Blizzard is one of those companies that's it's a giant corporation that just pumps out really good games. and
Mhm.
they're known for taking the best developers and putting them onto their team, or finding raw hidden talents. So how did working at Blizzard kind of shape your career?
Um, well, I came to Blizzard because they were publishing our first game. I had my first small 7-person game company in Boston, and we were going to do a small arcade game for them that was going to be part of a BattleNet arcade. So there'd be their mainstream games, and then there'd be this arcade line that was more arcadey, basically smaller games that you could play. Well, when they were about to publish Diablo 1, they realized, hey, we're a tiny company. They were at the time. We only have time to focus on the things that are obviously going to be spectacular successes, and we think Diablo is going to be. So we're canceling other projects, but we love you guys. Would you guys come and work for us? Because you've helped us with the StarCraft art style. We did. We sent over a whole memo of how we did our art and everything so that they could improve their StarCraft graphics. And we even have like one doodad from our old arcade game that's in StarCraft. The
Really?
crashed spaceship that's there. Yeah, so they liked us a lot, and they wanted to basically hire all of us. And I'm the only one who took the offer to go over there. And I said, okay, obviously I need to learn more about what makes a great game. Uh, we had some of the components, but not all. Uh, we did get canceled, but we all have invitations. Who's going? Who's with me? And
Right.
I was the only one who went. Everyone said we like the East Coast.
Wow, that's a shame for everybody else, man. You like hit a home run with that.
So I was the only one who went. And um, when I arrived at Blizzard, and I was immediately thrown into the fire. Here's a third-party project we're working on called Ryko. They eventually talked about Ryko at a BlizzCon slide, so I can mention it here. It was a Japanese RPG designed by a team that is split off from Westwood Studios, the arch rival of Blizzard. And so I kind of cut my teeth on that, but I ended up canceling the project because I would raise concerns about the fact that the team was not that well equipped to do the game, and we were having a lot of issues with
Hmm.
it. So we eventually canceled that project, and then they put me on Warcraft Adventures, and then I helped cancel that project because
Oh,
they said
jeez.
that's being outsourced to these Russian devs, and then it was a terrible game until we sat down and redesigned it. They said, Mark, who do you want to redesign this? And I said, I talked to you about how I was an Infocom fan. I want Steve Moretsky of Infocom. He's an adventure game wizard. Let's get him in here. And so he we got him in here, and Steve Moretsky, myself, Bill Roper, and Chris Miller locked ourselves into a room for a week and redesigned the entire game, nuts to bolts, all the puzzles, everything in Warcraft Adventures. And
Wow.
then it was time to get this third party to implement it. And they said, we can't do it. It would take a year. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I looked into the source code, and the source code was so bad that literally everything was hard coded. So that if you wanted to change, say, an inventory item on one screen, you would have to change it on 500 other screens.
Oh
It
my
was that hard.
gosh.
So we realized it would be impossible to do. And to protect the Blizzard brand, I went to Bill and I said, Bill, we got to cancel this project. And so I got the reputation, I got the name Sling Blade at Blizzard because I canceled my first two projects. And this is a sure path to give yourself not a job, right? It's
Yeah,
a
I
path
can imagine so.
and I had a friend had given me a 1912 Sling Blade harvesting site that I hung on my back wall. That was kind of like an antique, and so people called me Sling Blade because I kept canceling these projects. Um, but they liked it basically. I saved the brand and I did it for the right reasons. It wasn't a negative thing. It was kind of an in joke type of thing. So, I learned early on that quality matters. I learned early on that protecting the brand and not shipping shit in a box is something that's really important.
Could you teach
And
the rest of the gaming industry that, please? That would be great.
and I learned that from Blizzard's founders too, who were like fewer, higher quality games, because a lot of game companies were spamming out thousands of titles. Literally, there were 4,000 to 6,000 titles hitting PC shelves during those early years of the PC games industry. It was crazy. And so, so we concentrated on fewer games. We made some hard decisions. And then I went on to become manager of product development and to train the producers at Blizzard. So especially as we were splitting into multiple projects for the first time. So I worked on StarCraft, um, and and then I worked on basically training the producers for uh, Warcraft 3 and what would eventually become World of Warcraft. It was another project at the time. So, I learned a lot. I learned a lot at Blizzard, and I'm very grateful for my time there. And again, I could go on and on about this, but I learned that quality matters. I learned that you treat your brand well, and you're good to gamers. You don't get too greedy. You do what's good for gamers. You do what's good for business, but you got to balance the two. You can't just go one way or the other. I learned about gameplay. I learned about making a game, a niche game, and making it accessible to a wider audience, and yet preserving the hardcore element of it that gets the high-end players to keep playing and saying your game is great, because they're really the influencers in the industry.
Right.
So these are some of the key lessons I learned at Blizzard, and I could probably write a book about how each one was arrived at and how I learned it, and all the hard knocks we went through.
Well, I mean, as I'm listening to your story and just kind of how that, I guess, molded and shaped you as a developer, in terms of Firefall and the whole downfall of that, and then your new project Ember that it seemed to be getting a lot of traction so far, and I'm personally pretty excited about it myself. What exactly do you hope to accomplish with Ember? Because obviously Firefall was the game that you were really really passionate about, trying to help get into the right direction, and just didn't seem like no one wanted to give you gas for it. So what's some of the things that you're going to do for Ember if it does become an actual project and it does become an actual product in development that Firefall kind of failed to do?
Well, it's interesting because Ember is really the game that we wanted to make while we were making we were making a fantasy RPG MMO in Warcraft, but we were playing the hell out of Battlefield 1942, and we wanted to make as our next game sort of like an online massive equivalent of Battlefield 1942. And that's interesting because what happened was I left Blizzard to do just that, and I started with Firefall. And we hadn't heard about Project Titan yet. They were working on expansions with World of Warcraft, but here's an interesting story. There was a little bit of competition between Blizzard and our new Red 5 team, and they started Titan, I think, and I only have circumstantial evidence of this, shortly after discovering we were working on a similar type of game. And there was even down to real sort of petty things that were happening, where we would start a tiki bar and have free alcohol at the office space. And then Rob Pardo would storm into Paul Sam's office and demand that they have a bigger and better tiki bar for the Titan team.
Oh my gosh! You know what? You're lucky Valve didn't get into that competition, because they would have blown you guys out of the water.
So I think there was this little race going on in both small and big ways, even though we were nothing to them. I think that we recognized that the idea of this project had potential, and there was kind of a little race going on. And we went different directions. I mean, I learned later from ex-Titan team members that they had kind of gone in the more smaller scale shooter aspect of things, and we were really originally trying for a war game. We were originally trying to do, like I said, Battlefield 1942 as the WoW team had talked about it, and develop that into an experience. So that was what we started off on Firefall, but we lost our way completely, and it's for a number of reasons. Of which the 9 is really only the last and most final one.
Right, right. Real quick, for if you could explain to our listeners what the Nine is and how they kind of are
Sure.
were involved with the project.
Okay, so the Nine is a Chinese operator of MMOs and developer of MMOs. They used to be one of the largest ones because we granted them the World of Warcraft license. I had actually gone to China and interviewed them and a bunch of companies, and Blizzard ended up selecting the Nine, who was the hungriest, to publish World of Warcraft. But when that didn't work out, and Blizzard had several issues with the Nine, they canceled the contract, declined to renew it with the Nine, and the Nine was looking for a new project. And so um, when Firefall was there, and we were making rounds looking for publishers, the Nine was there. They wanted to, basically heavily invest into the company and essentially buy it. And so, it was it was not a good time at Red 5. We had another CEO that the board had asked me to basically eject and save the company and to buy the original investors out. The original investors had sort of like, said, this isn't working. It's going to cost a lot of money. We're not sure about MMOs anymore. We want out. Can you please find us a buyer and please don't tell the current CEO, go out and find bidders. And so I found bidders, and I had a bidding war going on between the Nine and one or two other Chinese companies. And it was kind of funny because it was like, you ever see the movie Barbarians at the Gate?
Yeah.
It's a Wall Street movie about the buyout of companies, and there's this scene at the climax of the movie where there's negotiations going on between two potential buyers of the company, and it's literally they're running from one conference room to the next to sort of like take terms back and forth. Well, I kind of had it where the Nine was in the office negotiating with me, and then I had meeting with this other Chinese company in the Starbucks across the street, and
Oh my
neither of them knew that they were there. And so, so I was running back and forth to try to get the best deal I could, not just for the company, but for the people remaining behind. One thing that Blizzard taught me is that when a company gets sold or transfer of ownership, you need to reward the employees who are loyal to the vision. And so, I insisted on huge bonuses. We set aside millions of dollars and we cut huge bonus checks to all the employees who were loyal and who stayed. And, and I put that deal together. I insisted that happened. And so we did that. And, I had the original investors were bought out, so they were happy. The Nine was happy because they had something which they thought was going to be WoW, which I think was
Oh no.
a false impression.
Oh no.
And the team was happy because we had jobs, and not only jobs, everyone had huge fat bonuses.
Right, right.
And and so I that was the first time I had to step in and save Red 5. First was founding it. That's always hard. Second was, when the investors kind of got sticker shock over the cost of MMOs. And third, and we're unhappy with the CEO that they had brought in to run the company.
Oh gosh, jeez.
You have to understand this about VCs. When VCs come into your company, they love to hire their own CEO, C-level executives to sort of like, manage the developers. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, it just did not work. And so they literally begged me for a way out. So I put it together for them. I put together the best package I could for my team, and off we went. And and the Nine basically offered the best deal. So we went with the Nine. But I was careful to sort of carve out an independence, saying, listen, we'll do this deal, but you got to let us do what we're going to do.
Right.
And the strength, and I actually had to put it into the contract. But the funny thing about Chinese companies and contracts is everything's up for renegotiation at any time.
Oh, what? Wow.
Yeah, a contract, it's sort of like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's more like guidelines than anything else. So,
yeah. Oh, that sucks.
So a lot of energy was spent, I wouldn't say arguing with the nine because we definitely had a long honeymoon phase, but more like trying to stick up for things that we were doing and with the game and that we believed in. Um,
So if I may, it was more the actual owners of the company making it difficult rather than any said employee or said like development phase. It was more of them really trying to make it the next World of Warcraft rather than just putting out the product that should have been out there in the first place.
well, unfortunately, that kind of external pressure by investors starts to trickle down, and it caused a schism in the upper management of the company between myself and certain key executives
Ouch.
for running the development project. Certain key executives, not all of them, but some of them really wanted to appease the investors and also really loved WoW. And so they kind of had a vision of the game that was very WoW like, and they had no prior experience in developing an MMO.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, let's hire those people. Woo!
They had game experience, and I trusted these people. But we were at creative differences, and unfortunately, it got pretty ugly. And when the nine started to, they literally, in order to renegotiate the guidelines of the contract, they would do things like not pay anyone's salary for a month,
Oh.
just refuse to send the money, you know. And so when that happens, people get really worried, people get really scared, and so there's a natural, I can't fault people for having a natural
Right. No,
reaction to
that's fair.
say, let's just do what the investors want. Oh God, please. And besides, I kind of like this game anyway, so what can it hurt?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that really happens to a lot of really good games, especially like MMOs or larger sandbox titles that try to do something that hasn't been done before, and then the investors realize, that, oh my gosh, this is going to take a lot longer than we originally thought. And I almost feel like they need to be kind of like shown certain successful MMOs. It's like, hey, do you guys know how long EverQuest took to make, and World of Warcraft, and Ultima Online, and RuneScape, and like all these successful MMOs and massively just scaled games? They don't take a year. It's not like Call of Duty when you can just spin out the same crap over and over. It takes time.
By
So
the way,
yes,
Blizzard had no idea either. I remember doing my budget one year for WoW and going, okay, we're going to need 60 developers. That was unheard of at Blizzard at the time.
yeah,
60 people. And I'm like, yeah, 60 people. And here's exactly why I had to do all this analysis to justify,
mm-hmm.
that we were going to have a team size that was 30 to 40% larger than any prior Blizzard team size. And so nobody really understands how hard it is to make. Although it's gotten a lot easier because we know a lot more about scalability now. We
Right.
have far better tools, and this is actually what makes Ember possible. Is you have tools like Unreal, you have tools like we know a lot of techniques about scaling databases now that we had no clue
Yeah.
about. Wow, a lot of this stuff is the internet as a repository of development information and open source tools did not exist during World of Warcraft's development to the extent it does now. So this is why you can see smaller teams delivering, larger and larger online experiences than you have ever before.
Right,
And
right. That's totally fair. I mean, okay. So kind of piggybacking off of that, just kind of getting away from the whole Firefall thing because that's over and done with. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing anyone else can do about it. In terms of Ember and the development kind of process in which you want it to actually go, you started a Kickstarter for the website. That was stupidly successful, like more successful than I personally thought it was going to be because you're asking money to host a website, and I'm just like, okay, cool, but everyone's like, yeah, here's money. I'm just like, oh,
it
okay.
wasn't my idea. The community said host a fundraiser.
I mean, and that honestly goes to show you the kind of dedication that we honestly wanted Firefall to be. Because I remember when I first played the game, I was like, this is great. This is like World of Warcraft, but like Call of Duty, and like I can like the PvP was fantastic, and then they removed it, and I was just like, why? So with Ember, what exactly is your overall goal with this project? And do you think that this is a reasonable goal to actually achieve in terms of creating and actually developing this project?
That is the $1 million question. Um, I believe it is, or I wouldn't be doing it. And when we first started off, I didn't believe it was possible. We did the petition, and it got. I thought we'd get 300 signatures, and we pretty quickly reached 1,000, and now we're at 3,500. I didn't think that that would happen. Fans asked for a website, and I remember going, well, for $250, I could host a website for a year with forums, buy commercial quality software, have
Right.
high quality forums and put it out there. I didn't think we'd raise $250.
You went way above that.
I tried to set the goal on Indiegogo for 250, but their minimum was 500, and so I was dismayed. I said, "Okay, $500 now is never going to happen."
Yeah.
Because that's their minimum. And so I set the goal at 500, and then we blew past that to 600% of that goal. And
What'd you guys end with anyway? I don't even remember.
I don't know, it's over $3,000.
Yeah, and see, that's why I love the internet, is because we know what we want. Stop giving us the same old retired BS over and over and over again. Just give us something original. Damn it.
And what I hate about crowdfunding is these MMO companies or these startups that come out and say, we're going to build an online game or a large game, and we're just going to do one giant fundraiser for it, and we're not going to, ask for nearly enough money as it actually costs to make. And then we'll see you in 5 years.
Dude, you bring up a good point, because look at all these games that have been like, yeah, we're only going to do this, and then Mighty Number 9 happened, and, Crowfall's still in development, and all this other games that are like, okay, I think the best example of that is probably Star Citizen, that's like, give us money, and we're going to make the best space game ever, and you just kind of look
breaks
at...
my heart. Chris Roberts, I idolized him when I was growing up. He's a big reason why I want to be a game developer,
Yeah.
and I don't want to see that project fail.
No one does. No one does. But look at No Man's Sky. I mean, like all these games that like promise something big. It's always. I don't want to say always, because that's not fair. It's generally a flop because the internet just doesn't understand how game development works.
Yes,
And I think that's a huge problem for developers of this time, is because, back when I was growing up, which was the 90s, is the internet was used for, like email and AOL chat rooms and stuff like that. It wasn't meant for gaming when it was first brought to the public, but now it's on our phones, for goodness sake. It's in our cars. So to have something that's as massive as the internet, to be able to play with your friends from across the world onto this one little game, you have to be able to please everyone, and you can't do that. So crowdfunding is great. I personally don't ever back crowdfunding games, no offense, but I want to see a finished product before I'll hand you $60.
Well, we're trying to do it differently. We
Exactly.
we don't want to promise you an entire game for a ridiculously small amount of money,
Right.
and say see you in 5 years. I took a page from publishers. Publishers don't say that. Publishers don't hand a third party developer a couple $1,000,000 and say see you in 3 years.
Right.
They say, here's a little bit of money, let's see you next month. And it's called milestone based development, and you don't get paid if for your next milestone if they don't like what they see. So why don't we do that for crowdfunding? Why don't we break it up into bite-sized chunks, and incidentally educate people about the time and the costs it takes to create these games, and deliver tangible results that exceed expectations and goals at each step, or we don't get funded for the next step. So instead of a milestone that says, hey, we want to raise $500,000, see you in 5 years, we said, let's do $500 and let's knock it out of the park and show you a great website and great forums. And we did, and then people gave us more, and so we exceeded the goals. We said, we're going to do the concept art that we need to create a playable mock-up ahead of time. It may not be made, but we'll print posters and we'll give you the artwork and everything else. And we did that, and we delivered it very, very fast. I mean,
and they look fantastic, by the way. I almost wish I backed the thing now, because they're so pretty. They're awesome.
Thank you. We have a great Italian concept artist who I've worked with for the past couple of years on my Crixta tabletop, and now Ember. And one thing I learned at Blizzard is always been able to attract great talent and great teams. So, and now we've got Joseph Penna, who was built battle frames for Firefall, building the Thumper right now for our
That's
next
awesome.
and excuse me. Um, and these are short goals. So we're breaking it up into smaller funding rounds, and we're saying, judge us by what we do, and you're not going to have to wait months and months and months for this. As soon as we're already working on it before we even raise the money, because I'm now committed to this. I believe it. I'm putting my own money ahead of time into it, not because I feel that it's something that needs to be done. And a game I want to see, a game that the original WoW team had wanted to do after WoW, an online game that was like a massive war effort, and it's something that hasn't been done ever correctly, and it's something that I owe the fans of Firefall, who were so let down by, who got caught up in the politics of development and suffered on the game end as a result. This is my apology to them. This is I am the type of guy who likes to deliver what I say I'm going to deliver. So here I am, doing it, climbing the mountain step by step to give you guys what you deserve, and to give me what I want to see, which is the game that I really believe. So we break it up into small rounds, and our second round is coming up on Monday, August 29th, and we're doing a small raise, a 5K raise, to basically finish building and texturing the Thumper, our version, which is a giant mech machine with drill arms that goes into the rock that you have to defend and escort back while these sort of mini kaiju attack it. This is what we're building.
Keep talking. I'm interested. Keep talking.
It's like Thumpers are boring. Anyone who plays Firefall, I love Thumpers. I came up with the idea of Thumpers. I took the name from Dune. When you put the Thumper in the sand and the sandworms attack, that was the inspiration behind it. But I was like, we can do better. It's like Thumpers are great, but what if the Thumper would, instead of being an inanimate drill, was this giant autonomous mech that was like drilling into rock, and then being attacked by kaiju as big as it is, and it's like drilling its drill into the kaiju's torso, and all this gore is flying out while you're trying to defend it, because if you don't, it will destroy the Thumper and you'll lose all the resources it gathered. So we one-upped the whole Thumper encounter idea, which is probably the most fun.
That sounds awesome. Okay, so kind of actually piggybacking off that question, the whole kind of segmentation crowdfunding, that's actually never been done before, to my knowledge, has it? I don't think I've ever seen a company actually do that.
No, I don't think anyone has done it before. But it is the publisher model. It's well known in game publishing, and since crowdfunders are now acting as the funding aspect of publishing, why not do the same thing? It's like, show me the results before we fund you again. And I'm quite comfortable with that, because it keeps the pressure on me to stay, to deliver not just great results, but to stay extremely focused, because each funding round is small. I can't wander off on the design. Right. Oh, wouldn't it be great? My team can't wander off to be like, why don't we do this instead and try this crazy idea or that crazy? It's like, no, we have to deliver what we said we're going to deliver, and we only have 6 weeks, so let's bust ass.
Okay, so based on that, how will that play out? Okay, so totally hypothetical here. You're actually in the development process of the game now. How do you actually start doing that with the broken up crowdfunding style that you continue to implement? Because that sounds like you're almost praying to God that the internet gives you a paycheck each month, is basically what you're doing. So first of all, how can you convince people to work in that kind of environment? Because development is stressful. Like I've been there. I get that. But how can you also continue to keep convincing us, the fans, that we should shell out $50 to $100 a month to do the next stage of the crowdfunding, other than just show results?
Well, I think showing results is a huge part of it. I don't
Okay.
think that should be underplayed at all
No,
because
no, no. Yeah, yeah. It's just
well, I should say show results along the way too. I try to have an update, a tangible update about the game or the process of making it at least every week. I try to stay very connected with the fans on the forums, as well as jumping into our Discord Ember channel that's fan run. Great channel with I don't know over several hundred people right now, and and I'll hop in after every update and field questions when we do these updates and sort of gauge the temperature of the room, so to speak. Um, what we're doing is, you know, sometimes a micro goal is not by itself a game. And so what we're trying to do now is we're saying, listen, the main thing we're trying to do with Ember is to build what I call a playable mockup, and we want to fund that in X number of steps, 3 steps to 5 steps. And I sort of laid them out on the blog post on our website. And so we're going to basically model a prototype thumper encounter that we want to deliver to backers as something that they can actually play and take screenshots of and stream to generate more publicity for the game. So the first step is, hey, let's build the thumper. Let's complete that. Then the next step might, hey, let's build the omni frame and the player character and maybe the weapon system. And the third one is, hey, let's build the enemy Shihu and their shape-shifting forms, and where they shape-shift from ranged attackers, humanoid alien creatures, to these sort of beastly things that are kind of inspired by
right.
Live, Die, Repeat, or Edge of Tomorrow, I think it was called here. And then we're going to have a final milestone where we put all that together into a playable mock-up. And when we have a playable mock-up, we've attracted a lot of supporters along the way. Hopefully, we've grown our audience and we've shown a track record of not only successfully funding each milestone, but successfully delivering it in record time and staying in contact with our fans the whole way to show that we have a momentum behind it. And when that happens, the plan is to then go to Kickstarter and say, now we want to raise the funds to start a full-time company. It's not complete funding of the game. Again, we're doing milestone development, but this will sort of kickstart things like full-time hires,
Right.
computers, office space, that type of thing. Basically, what would be called seed round funding in a
Okay.
professional venture funding environment. So basically, I'm taking the process of professional investment, which I've done for many years. I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars that way. And I'm saying, let's do it on a smaller scale, on a crowdsourcing scale, but with the same accountability. The same.
Wow, shocker! Accountability? No way!
It's like accountability is key. And it's like, and I don't want to be accountable to the investors that are expecting World of Warcraft. I want to be accountable to the people whose vision of the game they backed in the beginning, that they want to play as players. And so that's it. It's like, hey, let's have crowdfunding with accountability and risk. We all share risk, right? The next milestone may not be funded. We might screw up a milestone and be completely off base, and people be like, this isn't what we want to play at all. And we can try to course correct from that. This would be the equivalent would be flying to your investors and then pitching them on a new plan, that sort of thing. But hey, why don't we make that a process? Because investors are really good and really careful with their money. Why shouldn't crowdsourcers be too? So, so that's basically the plan. It's like for Ember, we're building the game. We're building the playable mock-up encounter that's going to launch the company when we do a Kickstarter for it later. We're building the community along the way. We're showing a track record of hitting our funding goals and hitting our deliverables and exceeding expectations along the way. That's what we want to do. We want to be accountable to our backers every step of the way. And you're right. I don't think anybody has done that before. There's kind of a take the money and run attitude, and I don't like that at all.
I mean, just hearing you say that, I think honestly gives me some hope for the gaming industry just in general, because there's a game that I'm really invested in called Gigantic. That's seen some ups and downs and stuff like that. but
Hmm.
they're very open and honest with their community, just like you are. And I feel like the games that do that and the companies that are super transparent and super open with their community always succeed, no matter what happens, because they're just so honest with people. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of game companies or community managers or just anything, is they either shut down for some reason and don't tell their community anything for months or years, and they're like, hey, here's our product, and everyone's like, the fudge just happened. Or they're they're like really political in their answers, and they like dodge all these really important questions
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I just it's almost like real life. If you're open and honest with people, they're going to accept you a lot more than if you're a shady, douchebag. So like I it's
And this minimizes the financial risk.
right, right.
Instead of like sinking, a huge crowdfunder like Star Citizen and then and waiting years for stuff, by asking for smaller amounts, and it's usually different people backing different rounds. I'm sure some people will return, you
Hmm.
know, um, you know, but this sort of like minimizes your investment risk as a crowdfunder, just like professional investors manage their risk through milestones.
Right, and I feel that's really important in today's age, because people do not want to say, okay, yeah, here, I'll give you $5,000 for this cool tier, give me all this cool stuff, and then 4.5 years later, well, I haven't actually seen a product yet, but hey, that was a good $5 I spent. Woo! So it's just, I like, it's important to me that you're saying these kind of things, because when I'll be honest, when I first heard about Ember, I was like, okay, that's awesome, I'm excited, but can this actually work? And now that we kind of know more details about, I guess, kind of your plans on how to do the whole project, it's more comforting to me that you're more open and honest about what you actually plan to do, rather than to just be like, hey, I'm making this cool product, give me money.
Yeah. No, I think we have to show that we are winning along the way. You can't just wait with bated breath
Yeah,
until the end.
yeah, that's very important.
um, and I'm not crowdfunding anything that I'm not actually delivering. It's like, okay, we promised a website, we promised art, that's all delivered. We didn't say, oh, here's art, and you'll eventually, we're not selling you concept art of a spaceship that won't appear in your hangar for 2 years. I'm sorry,
Uh,
Chris. I love you. I love your game. I really want it to work, but
No, I mean
yeah,
that's totally fair though, is because a lot of companies do that, and I think that's really important for not only game companies to understand, but community to understand. That is, if you feel you're being cheated, you probably are. So go with that gut instinct. Don't just go, well, it's a cool Mega Man remake. I think this is gonna work. Here you go. Here's all my money. Like, try, be smart about your investments, and that's just what you're talking about. Is that investors want to be smart about what they invest in. Like, think
yeah,
of the show Shark Tank. They're like, okay, you have a great product, but you're a complete moron when it comes to business. I don't want to be your business partner. I'm out. So I think again this goes back to the whole open and honest kind of mentality that you have, and that's just so reassuring to kind of know that this project is kind of led by someone that kind of favors that.
you're right. There, open and honest is extremely important. That's why on our forums we don't censor shit that gets said about me. There's a lot of crap that people stirred up, made up out of whole cloth, or exaggerated from seeds that were planted
Right.
by disgruntled employees or management that had a different view, or investors, and they got blown out of proportion. But I can't just bury that. I mean, if I did that, people would be like, well, you're trying
Yeah.
to hide something. It's like, no, we have a section on our forums where you can discuss that. And, because I think it's important that people hear everything. And all I ask is, I'm not going to sit there and say, no, that didn't happen, or that's a lie, because no one is going to believe that in the internet age. It's Streisand effect. It's everything else.
Yeah.
All I say is, okay, you can have your say. Here it is. I'm not censoring you, because I'm a huge advocate of free speech, by the way. I'm not
Yeah,
censoring you.
I've noticed your Twitter feed.
But my only rule is judge me by what I do.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Judge me by what I'm doing right now for you. And then that is all I ask.
I mean, it's just such a better way to do business, in my opinion, because everyone's just so worried about offending everybody. It's just like, just make your product, and who cares what other companies are doing? Just have fun with it. Like, there's a reason World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, and all these other games that are from one company are so popular and still live, to this day. I mean, it's so important, I think, for companies to really just kind of hammer that just value of community and open and honesty. But
Yeah.
honestly, Mark, I think that that's probably where we're going to end the interview off for now. I know you have a lot of different websites and stuff that you personally handle, so go ahead and plug those right now, so everyone listening can actually kind of get in touch that way and kind of discover this awesome stuff for themselves.
Sure. I have a free speech and advocacy group for gamers called League for Gamers that's run by all volunteers. It's www.leagueforgamers.com, and we're doing a revamp of that. It's absolutely free to sign up, and it's free speech for gamers. It's not like NeoGAF. You're not going to get censored. So go ahead and you can start a hashtag group. You can own hashtags in it. So you can start a group for that. That's part of what I'm doing. The other thing is, I just really want to emphasize that Ember is coming. We're committed to making this game. The community has shown tremendous amounts of support to see an online game, a simulated warfare against an alien race on a planetary scale. Imagine, base building, resource collection, a little bit of Starbound, and a little bit of PlanetSide 2, instead of other players, you're fighting an alien race. And of course, spiritual roots in Firefall and what the WoW team wanted to create after WoW. We are doing the next fundraiser for that on Monday on Indiegogo on August 29th, PST in the morning. That will be launching. You can find out more about our plans to create a playable prototype on www.emberthegame.com on our blog entries there. And you can find a very active forum base and community on forums.emberthegame.com. So please, please, please take a look at that, because something is happening there that nobody expected that's really cool. And check it out. And if you like it, come join us on our next milestone fundraiser on Monday.
Awesome. And your Twitter is at Germs, GRUMMZ.
At Grums.
Oh, Grums?
Pronounced Grums.
Okay,
at Grums, GRUMMZ. And
I'm dyslexic.
I am a free speech zone, so be aware that I'm probably one of the most transparent and say what on my mind CEOs out there. So
he tweets a lot, just to let you guys know. Currently, he has 77,000 tweets, which is just insane.
Do I really?
Yes, you have 77.1 thousand tweets.
Jeez, that's more than Hillary's leaked emails.
Oh my god! Shazam! Well, Mark, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you and kind of getting to know you on more of a developer level, and just kind of knowing the.
I love these no hold barred interview.
They're fun, man. They're fun.
I never turn away questions. I'm up for anything. So thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Awesome. Well, I plan to have you on again once more information does come out. And once again, dude, I appreciate your time. And to everyone listening, make sure to check out all the websites and stuff that you checked out. They will be in the description below on the video. But for now, that's it. That's all. Have a wonderful afternoon, morning, and or evening, and we'll see you guys next time.